Looking back at everything with the pandemic is such a surreal experience. Schools shutting down, rumors of news at the start, stay-at-home orders, shutdown of businesses, panic of supply shortages, shift to everything online, and the utter collapse of our healthcare system. A total of 1,219,487 people have died from the pandemic, with a peak of more than 3,000 people dying a day. With nowhere to go and nothing to do outside the house, many of the once packed roadways were empty of cars. Highways once packed were a ghost town. We saw the lowest vehicle miles traveled in over 18 years since 2002, when the US had 53 million less people. Abnormal events that had drastic impacts on every aspect of life, leading to rule changes and crazy events. Simple things from reductions on weight limits of trucks carrying essential supplies, to more extremes of normal everyday lives going online and changing the way people have started to view work. The real question is one of the present. How has the pandemic changed us, and more specifically, the roads? Construction was one of the many job sectors that were considered to be part of the essential workers, and this was no more evident than with roadwork. With the decrease in the number of cars on the road, there was a massive drive to push ahead the schedule for a lot of roadway projects to reduce the impact they would have on people in the future. The world stopped, but the roads never did. Large amounts of maintenance projects that would usually cost more due to outer restrictions from traffic and time limits on work due to disruption to the communities were no longer present. Many cities took this opportunity and pushed many projects ahead of schedule, or even added more projects to their yearly list. This reduction in the disruption was so beneficial that even with the increased cost of materials due to many shortages across the states, it was seen to be worth the additional cost. This has slowed down with the increased rise of cars on the road, with recently the vehicle miles traveled in the US reaching the same levels as before the pandemic, and many states not allowing the usage of traffic data during this time for future projects due to the abnormality, and instead opting for more recent data or data just before the pandemic. Less cars on the road led to increased speeds due to the emptier lanes, reduced law enforcement with decreased vehicles on the road decreasing demand, and also decreased seatbelt usage in relation to this, and the states saw an increase in drug and alcohol abuse. A benefit of this massive change was a rise in scooters and e-bikes that have seen a continuation even past the pandemic. It would be an easy assumption to make for another benefit would be that with less people on the roadway, then there would be less deaths due to crashes. However, there was a 7% increase in deaths annually with an increased crash severity shockingly. This seems counterintuitive. With less people there, should be less deaths, so an obvious assumption to make is that there were more people walking instead of driving, leading to more pedestrian fatalities. Except that's only half true, with pedestrian daily trips declining during this period, but what did increase was a 40% jump in pedestrian deaths. And the US is alone in this, with many other countries around the world having a decrease in pedestrian deaths instead. Why is the US different? The only answer is poor roadway design. Roads across the country are designed for one thing only: speed. It's hard to admit, but the one thing that the pandemic has shown us is that traffic saves lives. Cars are forced to slow down and in turn forced to be more aware of pedestrians. But when you take the traffic away and give people wide open roads, it leads to death. Not because of poor driving or poor decisions, even though those do have an impact, but the main cause is the roads we drive on. They are not built for the safety of pedestrians. There were not a lot of positives of this abnormal period of time, and many people died because of it. It's hard to not want to just move past everything that happened and try to forget about a time that saw a massive increase in personal struggles, whether that be mental or physical. Being forced inside for years on end has lasting impacts today, with long illnesses still affecting many, education of children being impacted due to online learning, and family members not being forgotten. The best thing to do when given a terrible hand is to try to make the most of it and take away positive changes that can be made to improve lives. This can be from allowing a more flexible work-home life, providing healthcare systems with the supplies and support that they need, or taking away a lesson about the safety of our roads. Roadways need to have improved protection for pedestrians and take away the opportunities for drivers to make mistakes, because these mistakes have deadly consequences.